Hello, beautiful people. I'm Deja Riley, and this is Dose of Duality. The podcast where we dive into deep conversation, cultivating a sense of community around the state of coexistence. Now, last time we were together, it was live and in person, and I brought you at home into this beautiful community of love. We got to touch on so many aspects of love because love is a multifaceted thing, right? And it can be complicated, and we talked about that, and it can be so fulfilling and so rewarding, and we talked about that too. And as I sit on this couch today, I'm just so grateful. I'm grateful for you being here. I'm grateful for the people that have supported me, that have encouraged me, that have motivated me along the way. And it's been extremely important to me to continue to surround myself by those that value me, that see me, that hear me, that support me, and really help me to be held in these moments, right? And as I speak of that, again, I go back to that fear that I had of sitting on a couch by myself to have conversation with you on the other side. But it's not really a dialogue, right? It's just like me sitting here talking, being me, being raw, being honest. And in the midst of the moment of my last podcast kind of crumbling to pieces and me experiencing a little bit of grief around a loss of something that I was super invested in, something that I cherished and held very sacred, and something that was really started out to be like really fun and really enjoyable. And it started with the foundation of love. And I sat in that moment and I was giving it some thought as like things were just like falling where they may. And I called a friend. I leaned into the community that I have. And this dear friend reminded me that I didn't have to go at it alone, right? I didn't have to brave it alone. In fact, there were so many parallels that we had in our initial conversation, so many moments where we just realized that we were in alignment in just having this simple conversation of connection. And I asked her if she would really take a moment to think about if she would sit with me. She didn't take a moment. She said yes on the spot. And I was so excited and so thrilled and just so grateful that she said yes, that she would sit here with me, have conversation with me, and ultimately lead so many beautiful conversations to follow with many of our guests. And so without further ado, I want to introduce you to my sister, my cozy co-host, ALICIA Ferguson.
Hey, that was such a beautiful intro.
Thank you.
No one could see me. Y'all couldn't see me, but I was like, yes.
But honestly, that is an example of like surrounding yourself with the people that like cheer you on, that encourage you, that motivate you, that inspire you. You are that for me. And I'm so thrilled to have this blossoming friendship with you.
Yeah.
And for us to be able to connect on so many different levels and really to see like how aligned our lives are and like how many parallels and things like that pop up. It's wow, we're going to get there. But first I want to ask you two questions. One, I am not a fan of placing labels on others, and I know you're not either. And the world introduces us as so many things. I mean, one thing that we know we have in common is we're Lululemon ambassadors and we're trainers, right? And we're beautiful, bold Black women. And we are activators and we're creatives.
Yes.
We're so many things, right? But how do you like to introduce yourself when you step into a room?
Yeah. I love that as the initial question, like energetically, like how do you like to show up?
Yeah.
I like to think of myself as a creator, like a visionary. And it comes through many mediums.
Yeah.
So my background and what I went to school for was marketing. And so I had a really blossoming, beautiful career in marketing for a really long time. And then I pivoted into the wellness space. And so even when you said trainer as a label, I was like, I mean, it was like a hesitation there. I was like, I do things with my body, but
but you teach and
Yes.
train others.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
and that's part of how you cultivate community.
Yes. Yeah. And I think it's just being with it. Like we were saying earlier, like you don't have to like excel at something to like also do or have that be a label. Like you can just like do it, put your feet on the ground, right?
Yeah.
So moving into the wellness space, which has like brought me here, has been such a beautiful, beautiful journey. For me, it's really about cultivating community and really just like being well and being that representation that was missing in the wellness space for Black and brown folks.
Yeah.
What really spearheaded me was my grandma actually passed away, and so she was the
Rest in
matriarch.
heaven.
Yeah, Alice.
Yes, Alice.
She was the matriarch for our family, and that was kind of like the catalyst for me to go deeper and to also just use yoga to grow my connection with God. Like my grandma had like Jesus on the hotline, y'all. Like, she was like, ring, 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 and he was like, "What you need, girl?"
Yeah, Jesus on the main line. Okay, tell him what you want.
And she told him, and did. And so for me, like that, and I was still working full time in marketing, and I just feel like I was being pulled in purpose in this way, and so I didn't really have a plan. I was just like, I'm just gonna do yoga for like 6 months straight, and if I don't hate it, then I'll do like a teacher training. And that 6 months was like, I didn't realize it then, but that's how I healed, and that's how I dealt with the grief of my grandma's passing. And so in a way, it was like when she passed, it like opened up all these new possibilities for me.
Yeah,
because I was headed on one track, and then I just felt like Alice was like, God, let me help my granddaughter.
Oh, yes.
And like had me venture down this new path. And so, which has been so beautiful. And so I like to say that like I'm a storyteller at heart.
Yeah.
And so no matter what the medium is, it's like I get to tell stories like within the communities that I'm cultivating, whether it was in marketing, whether it's with my body, whether it's like being that representation that people don't get to see. And I'm also an entrepreneur. I think that's always been like a part of me as well.
Yeah.
I was that kid in like 4th grade that was like, I'm gonna get these lollipops from Sam's Club and sell them. And my mom's like, why? But why?
You started your own fundraiser, though.
I said, fundraiser me. It's not going to an organization. It's me.
I am the organization.
Yes. And I don't know where it comes from, but it was just like, I don't know, it was that like spirit of like entrepreneurship and moving and just like figuring things out and like, oh, I can't do it? Okay, I'm going to do it anyway. Tell me I can't, watch me do it.
Yeah.
And so I think that just kind of like brought me to where I'm at now. And so then opening up a yoga studio and then opening up a wellness-inspired coffee shop. And so it's just been a really expansive journey, I would say.
Yeah.
I think when you just say yes and you know your like purpose is pulling you.
Yeah.
We were having this conversation, I want to say it might have been yesterday, we were talking about like when we get fear about things, like how do we know?
Yes.
Right? And so and I was reflecting back on that, and it's like when I feel like purpose is pulling you, fear's there, but you're like, this is like, it's more important than me.
Yeah.
Like, there's other people like waiting on me to say yes.
Going with a greater feeling.
Yes.
Like what's pulling you more.
Yes.
You know?
Yes, absolutely. And so I think about like in starting like BK Yoga Club, just like all the impact that space got to like have.
Yeah.
The lives and like just the relationships that's been built, even the businesses that people have built off of it because of those connections that have been there.
Yeah.
Like we've cried together with people, we've moved different places. I remember one woman was telling me, she's like, I've like had breakups here, I've had new jobs here. She's like, she's buying her first house, and she was like, and I'm celebrating like here with you. And it was just like to be that like
the epicenter.
Yes.
Yeah.
That like people's like monumental moments that they want to celebrate like with you, and they want to celebrate in this space with the community. Has just been so impactful. So
I love that.
Yeah.
And that's just really the tip of the iceberg in your journey. Like I have gotten to learn so much about you and so much about the many chapters and the many seasons that you've walked through. And I'm honestly constantly in awe of your strength and your gifts. And it's interesting in the way that we met doing Charge Feel.
Yes.
Shout
out to you for that.
Thank you.
That was beautiful.
Thank you, babe. Thank you. Honestly, like
inspiring. I'm gonna keep going.
But that's the thing is like I think what's so beautiful about our relationship is that we're constantly just inspiring each other. It's like, ooh, I see you doing that, girl. Ooh, that's fire. And then you're like, oh, I see you doing that, girl. Ooh, that's fire. But like, you know, those kinds of relationships, as we get older, we notice how rare they are.
Yes.
And so I don't take that for granted. That's part of the reason why I was like, you're the one. You're the only one that can sit up here with me and have these conversations. And like in the midst of that, we can learn together. We can grow together. We can cry together. We can laugh together because we're doing all of that too. And ultimately, we can hold each other and have each other's back in such a beautiful way. You know, oftentimes I have been in a lot of spaces where Black women don't necessarily feel like they have the permission to celebrate one another because it's usually that like tokenized, there's only room for one, right? And so until I started my journey with Lululemon, I had never seen so many Black leaders in one space. Yeah. You know, oftentimes I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to be the only, or there's going to be like one male, one Black man, and me.
To diversify.
Right. Yeah, you know, check all the boxes. Yeah. And what was beautiful was like, not only was I seeing people that looked like me, but seeing people that came from complete diverse backgrounds that I could learn from. Yes. And so then I was like, oh, and now there's not a ceiling either. So we can all keep rising. We can all keep growing together. Yeah. And we don't have to feel like we're in competition with one another because they want us all.
Yes. Yeah. And they make it known.
Yes.
And there's nothing like, there's no like behind the scenes or like bottom line of like, you need to be in competition. Like that's the energy of. And so I love that it's a top down thing though too. So I want to just shout outs to the New York team for like making everyone feel held and seen and really supported. Like whatever, I think that was one of the biggest things. I was like, whatever your dream is, whatever like your vision is outside of movement, outside of sweat, right? Because they don't just like pigeonhole you to that. Yeah. It's like they really give us space to just like grow and create. And I was thinking about the community that I'm surrounded with now, and it's so many Lululemon ambassadors. Yeah. That we're ambassadors, but we're friends.
Yes.
These are like my friends now. And it's like, wow, like being in this space and like getting the opportunity to work with them has like opened up just so many beautiful connections that like, you know, when I get married, I can't wait for you guys to be at my wedding.
Oh my goodness. I'm going to be there.
Speak live. I'm speaking live. I'm speaking it.
I cannot wait. I cannot wait to see you walk down the aisle. You're going to be the most beautiful bride. But isn't that so amazing that we can like look forward to being in each other's lives during those chapters and like really know that there's so much longevity in these relationships. Yeah. I mean, I'm going on my 3rd year with Lululemon, and I couldn't be more proud to be in these spaces. Yeah. I couldn't be, you know, more grateful to have the people like that I'm surrounded by all around me, walking with me. Yeah. And, you know, even when you talk to like our CEO, Calvin, right? He's like a down-to-earth, like really cool guy. Yes. Like I was actually, okay, so I'll tell you this.
And I haven't had a conversation, but I think, just to say, I think that's the trickle down.
Yeah.
Because your experience with him is like my experience with everyone else. I'm just like, you guys really love your jobs.
Yes. Like love your jobs. You come to work knowing that you care about the people that you work with. You know what I mean? Yes. And it's almost like you can tell it's a part of your world. It's not like, okay, I put my, you know, my suit on, I go to work, and then when I get home, I take it off and I'm not talking about work, you know? No. And sitting next to Calvin at Footwear News Awards, it was my first time. Oh, thank you, babe. Oh, I love that dress so much.
Your dress?
Shout out to Stassi, my amazing stylist. She really did the dang on thing. Oh my good. And the pony? Vic had my pony down to the ground,
It was giving, is like, am I the drama?
I was
might be. You
I
were
was the drama.
No,
I
you
was
were.
the drama.
It was good. It was
and
good.
eating up every moment of it. But when I was sitting next to Calvin, when we first got to the table and he sat down next to me, I was so nervous. Like my pits started sweating. I was shaking in my
sign.
boots. You know that's my visceral reaction. Like immediately in my body, I could feel the butterflies and there was one point where like he just like turned over his shoulder and he like laughed and made a joke with me, and then I was like, oh my goodness. And also like he knows who all of us are. Yeah. Like he's not so like high on this throne that like he's not paying attention to every single part that makes up this company. Yeah. Every single person, every single product. Like I mean, this man, he knows. He knows all, he sees all. but he makes you feel this sense of warmth. And everything trickles down, like you said, from the top down. And I think I feel that same sense of warmth when I'm in connection with anybody that works with Lululemon. Yeah. And that's so magical, so powerful, Yeah. And I think one of the beautiful things about that is like, it's a never-ending adventure. It's like always so exciting because you're like, ooh, where are we going to go next? What are we going to do next? Who are we going to meet? Yes. Like, it's exciting.
Yeah. And I love that they're just open.
Yeah.
And they're ready for us to let the ambassadors like take the lead and like put forth these like wild ideas. And it's just like, all right. And you know what it is? It's never a no, right? It's a let me see what I can figure out. Yeah. And for creative spirit, like that means so much.
Yeah.
It's like we're used to hearing no's a lot, but to hear just like a let me see what I can like make happen.
Yeah.
And just like that belief in like what we're doing for our communities, like what we're doing for the impact that we get to have for everyone else around us.
Yeah.
It's just really special.
Yeah.
It's very special.
Yeah. And it's intentional.
Very intentional.
Yeah.
Can I introduce you to something?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So I have my intention cards.
Oh, speaking of intention, let me get cozy. I see you in your socks, and I'm over here like, the fire is burning on the side. It's getting so toasty and warm in here. I'm like, I want to be in my socks too.
And I like wore shoes, but like it was just giving. It's giving this
yes.
Yeah. So a little bit about my intention cards and why they're important to me. So I'm an HSP. And what that means is it's called highly sensitive person. Okay. And not sensitive in the sense of like my feelings get hurt like easily. It's your nervous system actually processes information at such a granular level. And so you easily can get overwhelmed.
Okay.
And so I used to think that the overwhelm was almost, there was like a little bit of shame around it. Like honestly, I wouldn't even said overwhelmed until like I found this out, did research on it. I was like, that is the feeling, but you shied away from it because it makes it feel like you can't handle things.
How did you find out?
So there's a quiz. There's a quiz that you can take.
I should take the quiz.
We should. I'm gonna send you it.
Okay, please do.
Then which, when I'm thinking about the things you might be.
Right?
Yeah,
right?
I was like,
of all the conversations that we have, I'm like, am I also HSP?
Yes. Are you HSP? Yes. And so because I realized this, one of the things I love to say about myself is like curator of vibes, right? But that was also the way that I managed it without knowing that I was managing it. Okay. So I'm sensitive to like lights, smells, textures, like sounds. And so people are, but it just like affects you at a way higher level. So imagine like we can both look at this water bottle.
Yeah.
And somebody else is like, oh, it's gold. And it has a black top. And as an HSP, like I'm like, what kind of, this isn't really gold. It's like teetering on the side of bronze. Okay, there's a slight shimmer here on the right side. Oh, do I see how it's like glistening and there's a luster here? And so all of this is kind of like going through your brain at the same time. And so that's where the overwhelm could come in at. You naturally are just processing like the details.
You need to send me this quiz. I'm over here like, you down with HSP? Yeah, you know me. Like, I honestly, in my head, I was like, but that's how I think.
Yes.
And that's how I feel.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Send me this. We are like energy balls, right? Like you can, and you, yes, specifically you. I know I can, but like you could probably like power a room. Like people can feed off your energy, right? But because we vibrate like that high, there's also a come down.
Yeah.
And so, like, I will just feel like sometimes I'm just like I need to actually go away now.
Yeah, yeah.
And I need, like, complete solitude.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So I was talking to my life coach. Shout out to Kate. She's amazing. Lululemon actually connected me with her.
They connected me with a life coach too. Okay.
Oh my
this
God.
is
Oh my
another,
goodness. Oh my gosh. Oh my
shout out
gosh.
to Terry the trainer.
Yes.
But then also just shout out to them for being, like, people. They care about us
Yes.
as humans.
Yes. Yes.
Okay,
And
go.
like, yeah, no. 100%. Like, let's stay on that page.
Yeah.
They really do care to the point where they want to continue to pour into us because they know how much we pour out.
Yes.
And so when they said that that was a part of my ambassadorship, that I would get life coaching sessions on a monthly basis, I was like, excuse me? I'll get what?
What?
And then they introduced me to Kate Miller. When I say, like, she is honestly a gift from God. Like, how she has changed my life, how she has helped to, like, reshape just my existence in this world.
Yeah.
And I thought I was going to be talking to her about, like, future business goals and like, you know, how to find that work-life balance. That's what I thought we were going to be talking about. And then she started talking about, like, boundary circles. And she started, like, listen.
Heavy.
Kate be getting me all the way together. She was digging into my life. But honestly, I don't know where I would be without her.
Yeah.
And we've been working together for 2 years.
Oh.
And I'm obsessed with her. Like, she's amazing. And one of the things that we had been, like, working on together for a really long time was just, like, where I place my energy. And when she started talking about my core values, she was like, I want you to just talk about what matters to you, right? And she was just taking notes. And she said back to me, what I'm hearing from you is that one of your core values is sweet solitude. And I was like, yeah, but I like to be around people. Like, I'm very social. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I was like, you know, I don't really like being alone. And then once she said it, it clicked. I started thinking of all those moments where I need to decompress, all those moments where, like, yeah, I was in this highly charged, highly performative environment for X amount of days. And then I did not have the capacity to be in that space for the days to follow. And I was like, oh, yeah. Oh, I do intentionally, like, isolate myself. Even being in a marriage, like, there are times where my husband does his thing. I know I told you that we go on solo trips.
Which I admired a lot. I was like, that's, like, goals.
It's so necessary. It's the way that we keep thriving together, you know? So, yeah. So I need that quiz.
What's her name? Kate Miller?
Yes.
Okay. Wow. Shout out to Kate.
Kate is the one.
Thank you.
Kate, listen, I have so much to thank her for, but really, like, my mental state now and where I am energetically. And how I'm able to actually articulate how I'm feeling and what I want. And being just very assertive. Like, she has definitely helped me develop that, because I've always, up until this point where we started doing the work, I've always been such a people pleaser. And so it's natural for me to overthink a situation, to write unnecessary narratives in my mind, and then also to make decisions based on what others are going to feel.
Woo.
You know?
Talk about it.
So thank God for Kate.
And because of that, right, because we have these, like, porous or too fluid boundaries, like, as an HSP, it is the exact opposite of, like, what we need and how we thrive. And so giving ourselves that solitude actually, like, recharges us to, like, be the best possible version. But we actually need more self-care than most. And sometimes we think it's, like, overindulgent, and it's like, no, just accept that this is a part of who you are. Like, this is, like, a core this is like it's a core challenge, I guess you could say, or a gift, right? Because it can be seen as either or. But if you nurture it in that way, right, it's honestly like a superpower. Because what it also does is, like, honestly, I feel like I'm like ESP with my, like, intuition. And, like, the empathy that I have and can, like, feel from people. Like, it's like you can feel what you're thinking. You can feel what people are sensing. People can say things and you're just like, Or you can even speak out because you sense something. But that's because, and it's almost a primal thing that comes with HSPs as well. And so, anyway, all this to say,
I love all of this.
And
Thank you for feeding me this information, because this is going to be This is gonna be a TBC because we are gonna carry this conversation on and on. But yeah, I mean, being on this journey of self-discovery, ultimately, like, those are such gifts. When people, like, acknowledge something in themselves that you can also see in you, or they just hold up a mirror.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, that's fascinating to me because I feel that.
Yes. It was life-changing for me. Ugh. Like, genuinely life-changing. Like, I started allowing myself to rest and just not feeling guilty.
Yeah.
And, like, being like, no, you need more. So, like, carve this time out. Like, intentionally, specifically, take your Sabbath, or, like, just paint and have no real end goal. You're not, like, framing it. It's just, like, for fun.
Yeah.
Go take a pottery class, girl. Go walk around the block. Go record shopping. But, like, I start building that in my just, like, routines and structures. And it's helped me be more grounded.
Yeah.
And just more confident. Yeah. And just, like, more compassionate to myself. Which is, like, I needed that. So, anyway, so these cards, hence why I, like, Palo Santo. Like, I come into spaces and I'm like, how can I, like, ground myself, right? Because I can't adjust everything, but what are the things that I could really, like, hold on to that help me, like, get present? And so my intention cards and my Palo Santo. I love also. And a prayer.
And listen, we always hanging on a prayer.
We always hanging on a prayer.
But I love that you touched on being grounded, because part of the reason why I wear my black onyx around my neck is for grounding and protection.
Yeah.
And shout out to Pepper.
I know. In my head, I was like, Pep.
Yes, Palace 111. And she's given me so many healing crystals, but she's wrapped them for me so that, like, because I normally carry, like, pocket crystals and stuff. So, like, you know, when I was really heavy in healing mode, I was carrying, I think it was lepidolite, I think that's what it's called.
I don't know.
It's sort of a purplish stone. Ooh. It can be confused sometimes for, like, amethyst, because it's like kind of like, you know, that shiny quality, and it's got purple in it. But I was, like, carrying it in my pocket, and I didn't know why, because I'm definitely not as well versed in, you know, stones and crystals as Pepper is. But I asked her, I was like, I don't know why I gravitated to this stone. Like, I saw Plin's daughter Zuri, who I love so much. I know, right? Isn't it so beautiful?
It's such a good name.
So good. She picked it out when we were, like, in this crystal store. I think it's called Cinellate. And I was like, oh, that's a beautiful stone. I want that one too. I was like, we're going to be stone twins, crystal twins. And I put it in, I had started to, like, put it in my pocket and just carry it around. And it was a season that I was heavily, like, digging into healing and really just a healing mode on. And Pep told me that. She's like, oh, that's why you gravitated to that stone.
Yeah. The body knows.
Yeah.
Intuition is, like, it's just so on point.
Yeah.
I'm so thankful. Even when I don't listen.
Yeah.
I'm thankful that it's still like, I'm going to keep knocking at your door because eventually you're going to get it.
Yeah, it's true, though. It's true. And I mean, God does that, right?
Yes.
He's going to give us the lesson in various forms until we get it.
Yeah. Okay, so you want to pick a card with me?
Let's do it.
All right. So we're going to get loose.
All right.
I love it. It sounds weird, but it also feels so good.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to keep the mic with me. I'm not great at this. It's my first time, y'all.
No, you got this. You got this.
All right, so I'm going to shuffle. I'm going to spread them out on the table.
Okay.
Just take a deep breath.
Yep.
Close your eyes.
Yep.
Take a moment to ground. And then when you open your eyes, just take one, pull it back, and then we'll read them together.
Okay.
Cool?
Yeah, okay. I'm here for it.
Thank you for rocking on this journey with me.
Listen, I'm here. We're here together.
And you can see it. You can see, guys, they've been well loved.
Oh, I'm excited about these. Oh. All right. So I don't know that the numbers mean anything, but I have to tell you that my, like, what I believe is, like, my number is at the top.
What? Share.
So the number is 3.
Ah.
And 3 is a number that constantly shows up in my life. I was born on the 3rd day of the 3rd month.
You're
and
3-3? Wow.
Yes, I'm 3-3. And literally everything in my life happens in threes.
Mm.
And it's so bizarre how that goes down.
Yeah.
And honestly, sometimes I'm like, oh, I don't want to look for the three in it. And then
Yeah.
all of a sudden it's like, bam, bam, bam. There it is. There's your set of
Have
three.
you looked into what 3 means?
I've looked into like angel numbers and like why, but like, do you know a specific meaning?
No.
Okay.
I wish we could Google right now.
I know.
We'll have to do this after.
We will.
Okay. Well,
Yeah,
like an
we will.
iPad for like things like this. But like 3, I would look into 3 and like there's angel numbers and then just like biblical numbers too.
Yes,
for it, like what that means.
Yep.
I would just be really interested.
I'm curious because I read it once and then I was like, well, like maybe I shouldn't put so much heavy emphasis on it. So it wasn't something that I like carried with me. And yeah, I just keep seeing it just keeps showing up.
Yeah.
Keep showing up. So anyways, it's at the top of my card and it says, I am whole. I am perfectly created. I am a wonderfully unique individual. Every lesson I have learned, every risk I have taken, and every achievement I have made contributed to who I am. Because of that, I am whole. I love that.
That
so
resonates
much.
so
strong.
much.
So strong.
Even your intro,
yeah.
right? About how we're both sitting here right now.
Yeah.
All lessons.
Yes.
All contributing to just like this current moment.
Yeah. And I mean, I think about it. I mean, it talks about the risks and it talks about the achievements and like, you know, I think that's something that we both can relate on too. Like, we're high achievers.
Yeah.
We are very ambitious. We aren't afraid to take risks and take the leap.
Yeah.
And it's part of what led us to this moment of being here together today. But also, it's led us through so many different seasons of our lives.
Yeah.
You know, before we even ever knew each other, before God ordained this relationship, we have been taking those risks and really achieving those beautiful accomplishments along the way and learning all the lessons in between. And sometimes it gets messy.
Ooh, messy.
Messy.
I didn't like the mess for a long time.
Oof.
I had to learn. I'm still learning, if I'm being real, to like be with the messiness.
Same.
To sit in it.
Same.
It's like, it's not sexy.
I'm not a fan of conflict or controversy. I have a really, really hard time like approaching it and sitting in it.
Yep.
I think it's that idea that goes back to like childhood. I've been doing a lot of inner child work with my therapist, and a lot of it goes back to childhood of like, you know, I wasn't the kid who like wanted to get dirty, like in the physical sense. Like, I was playing in the sandbox, but I'm like, please don't get sand in my shoes. Don't get into my pants. Right. These are new. We don't want it in the socks. We don't want it in the pants. Yes. And it's interesting because I'm a beach girl. I'm from Virginia Beach. Used to go to the beach all the time. I was also the kid that I couldn't continue with my day right after the beach if I didn't shower. Like I couldn't walk around with sand all in my clothes and my bathing suit, feeling wet. Like,
He's like, nah, I can't go to eat now. I need to go home and shower first.
100%. And everything in the physical for me also manifests in the spiritual. And so that idea of like sitting in mess, being with mess, having something be messy, it's uncomfortable for me.
Yeah. And I think, like, if we're talking HSP-ness, because that's what just came to me, I don't like clutter. Like, everything needs to have a place. Like, everything should have, like, a reasoning for it.
Yeah.
So, like, when I look around, like, I just want to see aesthetically pleasing things. And, like, that's how my apartment is. Like, everything is very intentional. There's not one tchotchke that's just there just because. Unless it's, like, it's a gift and someone gave it to me and it's, like, meaningful. And so because I like structure my outer environment like that, because that makes me feel calm.
Yeah.
It makes me feel safe.
Yeah.
I feel like cozy. Like I just feel held. Internally, as you're talking like internally, like emotionally and spiritually, when it's the opposite of that too, I'm just like, oh my gosh, like how do I fix it quick?
Yeah.
Get quick solutions for these things.
Yeah.
And it's not good. But I'm not giving myself time to like go through the process, which I need to be able to go through the process because there's so much on the other end of that.
Yeah.
And that's why we're resilient and that's why we're strong. But I'm like, oh, just get to the strong piece.
Right. Can we just get to the ending where the hero comes out and she's like wearing her cape and she saves everyone and it's good.
All that stuff in between, the hard conversations and like sitting with self, like whack.
I feel that. Oh my goodness, so good.
I got, I think this is it's affirming it for me. I'm worry free. Right? You're worry free, girl. I release worry over things I cannot control. Instead, I choose to focus on things that are pleasing to me. When I release worry, I'm allowed room for solutions to enter my life. I am worry free.
Woo!
Mm.
You know, honestly, Alicia, I feel like that's going to be the perfect segue into our conversation.
Both of these cards, I felt like,
too, right?
They were like, all right, now let's go.
Well, before we get deep and heavy into it, let's take a little quick commercial break to show some love to our support, our support system.
Yes.
We're going to kick it to a little commercial. We'll be right back. So, Alicia, let's talk about Lululemon. Many may already know that it's an athletic and footwear brand built for run, train, yoga, and so much more. But what they may not know, and we can attest to as proud Lululemon ambassadors, is that it's a brand that puts people before product.
Yeah. And as creators, we dream real big. And so Lululemon has really championed and supported us, honestly, every step of the way. And so whether it's creating an intimate poetry show or training for the New York Marathon, soon to come, or whether the vision is to create a 2-day interactive wellness festival for Black History Month, or this podcast, which is amplifying 2 of its Black ambassadors and many others, Lululemon has really partnered with us to help build our dreams. And so we just want to say thank you and sending so much love to our Lulu team.
And we're back with Dose of Duality. I am sitting here with my cozy co-host, I love saying that, Alicia Ferguson. Alicia, this has already been so fun, so great. We kicked off our shoes, we're relaxing our feet.
Like in it now.
Party on down to the SKB. I love Escape. I just had to throw that in there.
Absolutely love Escape. What? It's like my, it ages us almost, right?
It really does, a little bit. That's okay.
That's okay.
That's okay. I'll sit in that. I'll sit in that. So my first question for you was, when you hear the word duality, like what comes up for you? What does that make you feel? What does it make you think of?
Yeah.
How does it relate to your life thus far?
Yeah. When I hear duality, just initially, I just think of 2 almost like polar opposite things, and having them sit together in some way. And I feel like my life has just been a source of duality.
Go into it.
Like always. Like I'm like the person who, like, how can I say it growing up? Like I love to get messy, right? In a sense of like I like playing in dirt and I loved like doing mud pies. I grew up in the country, so it's so we did for fun. And so I love doing that. But then I was also the girl who was like wanted to be fashion forward as a kid and was like, Mom, I'm not wearing this. Like I need to look like I have a look at 7 and we need to uphold this. And it's what look do you have? Like, what are we saying?
You know, but okay, what's so funny is I have a niece, my little Cameron, and she said to me, Auntie, I want you to order me clothes for preppy aesthetic. And I was like, excuse me? Do you know what aesthetic means? Because if you can tell me what aesthetic means, and then she did.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, so we have looks now?
Personal style at the young age. That was,
Preppy aesthetic, though. Alicia, I was blown away.
Indulge her. Completely indulge her to see where this ends up.
I absolutely did.
You're like, and I ordered the clothes she asked for. But like both of those, like always, like is this, and I've always had very like just strong opinions on things like that. And so as I've gotten older, like I think another duality for me was like I love the Lord, right? And as I dove deeper into my relationship there, but then I've also like would venture into the wellness space, right? Which there can be like a lot of things that can contradict sometimes. And so me like navigating the duality of that and like how do I honor this and then how do I honor this and how like where is there synergy that maybe people don't always get to see and where is that crossover? And so I don't know, I think it's just been a blessing that like duality has always been a piece of my life because I don't have to like sit in one spot.
Yeah.
Like I get to like all the gifts that have been put inside of me, like I get to just like live them out loud.
Yeah.
Even if they don't feel like they make sense.
Yeah.
Like it eventually makes sense how it's like come up in my life. Like I used to make candles.
Oh.
And it was like just a thing because I worked in like digital marketing and I was just like, I'd get home and I'm like, I've been on a computer all day.
Yeah.
And then now I'm just like at home in silence, making candles, listening to music, just smelling the smells and like working with my hands. And so it's like all these random things, but then eventually I start like making candles for my yoga classes.
Yeah.
And so it just all kind of like comes together when you allow I say seasons of obscurity. When you allow those seasons of obscurity to like you're with it. You don't try to like judge it or label it. And that's the duality.
I love that.
Yeah.
And we also have candles in common because you will never step foot in any of my apartments, homes, anything, and not see a candle in like every room.
Oh, yes.
I'm
that's me. Yeah.
Candle obsessed.
Yes.
Love candles so much. We're going to have to trade some of our favorite candles.
We should just make candles.
Oh my gosh. We're doing it.
Because I have all the supplies.
Done and done. Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
I've never made my own.
And I do intention.
Never poured.
I make intention candles.
Yes. Can we do that together?
Yeah. Oh, no, I'm so serious. Yes.
Oh, I love it. I'm in it.
We do like a little meditation first.
Yes.
And so you channel what your intention is.
Okay.
And then as you're like creating and making, you're like pouring that love and that intention into the candle. And then we make our labels with the little symbols to match the intention. And then every time, like you burn it, it's like to remind you of that.
Yeah. It'll take you back to that place. It's like going to be a little nostalgic too.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't wait for that.
I'm a DIYer. I love a craft.
You know what? I am new to crafts, but my baby sister inspires me.
Ooh.
My little sister, Bobby, is very artsy.
Mm-hmm.
And she has always been super gifted. No wonder she became a makeup artist.
Makes sense.
And yes, and she was always into arts and crafts. And I always admired that in her. But like, I used my body for art, and so I wasn't really crafty with my hands. I couldn't really draw. I wasn't gifted in that area. But I loved art class. It was still fun for me, right? And it's interesting because she came to visit me during the holidays and she stayed through New Year's. And we came up with this idea that we were going to paint and sip into the new year.
Ooh.
And so we bought canvases. We went to Michael's. It was a whole thing.
Yes.
She told me all the supplies to get. And then me, her, and my husband just like set up our easels and our canvases and we just painted freely.
How did that feel?
So good. So liberating.
Yes.
And honestly, I want more of it. So
Yeah.
I'm so glad that you're into arts and crafts.
I love.
Lead me. Lead the way.
And I get it. My mom is really like artsy, and she
Yeah.
wouldn't have called herself artsy. But then as I got older, I was like, girl, you could have been a whole art teacher. Like, what are we doing? What are we saying right now?
Yeah.
It's like I'll go home and like those are the things she'll plan for our activity. Like she plans activities.
Yeah.
And so we were like on the deck. And it was like some Bob Ross type painting, and we're like trying to paint the skate.
We had Bob Ross on while we were painting.
Yes.
I was like, he's gonna show me something. Let me channel my Bob Ross.
Like this is beautiful. It's amazing. No, I love that.
Yeah. And speaking of your childhood, you talk, so warmly about your mom. Did she establish this foundation of allowing you to embrace your coexistence, or like where did that really come from? How did that start?
Yes. Honestly, that's a great question because my family, like the larger part of my family, don't hate me, y'all. I love y'all. But more rigid. Like they're creative, but more in the traditional sense of how things should look and be placed. And that's a lot of African American and even just like brown families in general.
Yeah.
They want you to be safe and secure,
Yeah.
right? And so I come out the womb like I got a whole mouth, and my grandma's like, why is she saying so much? Right? Like children are seen, not heard, and you're just doing a lot. And my mom has always been my biggest supporter.
Yeah.
So like she might not be the risk taker, but I'm the risk taker. And so it was never like a no. Like she might be like, okay. All right.
That's what we're doing?
Yeah. Like, and it'll be so you've thought about that? And it's like, I kind of, but like, this is what I'm feeling like I want to do.
Yeah.
And I think that's what just made me so fearless.
Yeah.
Because she like supported that and like held that and like made me feel like I could do like anything that I like really set my mind to. And so if I switched my mind and I was like, I'm a vintage shop curator for this year, and then the next year I'm like, I'm a candle maker, she's not like, you need to figure it out, I can't believe you don't have a purpose in life. Like it was none of that.
Yeah.
It was just a lot of support. And so even me moving to New York,
Yeah.
when everyone was like, so you're leaving school and you're doing like corporate public relations, and you just want to do fashion in New York? Huh. Like, and it's just like, and
That sounds like quite a path.
and everybody in my family has like set, like real more structured, traditional like career paths. And so it's like, yeah. And even my dad was just like, what is going on? But he trusts my mom so much. So he's like, if your mama said cool, then like, cool, but like, I don't get it.
Yeah.
And so I'm just so thankful for her. Like, I think that, especially as a kid growing up, like, you really just give people the space to dream, create, be, mess up, fall forward, fall back, fall forward.
Yep. Fall to the side. Put a little lean in it.
I walk with a broken leg. Like, I'll figure it out. It'll straighten out eventually.
Yeah. I love that you said that about your mom, because my mom also is my biggest cheerleader, my biggest fan, and I was just talking to her about this on the phone, and I thanked her for this. I said, thank you for always making me believe I could do anything. And that's something I think some of us take for granted. But I think at the age that we are both now, I look at it and I'm like, wow, that was the foundation for all of my growth, for all of my success. For me to be allowed to make mistakes, to fail forward, like you said, I don't think I would be where I am, who I am today, if it weren't for my mom. Shout out to Donna. Love her.
Donna.
Yes.
Shout out to you, Brenda.
Yes,
We love you,
Brenda. We love you too.
Yeah. And my mom just, what I think is cool is my mom, I want to say recently got remarried, but maybe like 7 or 8 years ago.
Oh my gosh, my mom too, like a decade ago.
Yes.
Wild, right?
And they live in Atlanta.
Okay, so are we making them
moved to Atlanta. Yes.
My mom did too when they, oh my gosh. Oh,
yes.
This is wild.
We're really discovering this
right now. But I don't know why we never talked about this.
Yeah, that's so... okay.
So good. I love it.
But, like, I admire that.
Yeah.
Like, at her later years, it wasn't, like, love's off the table and, like, I'm just going to live my life the way I'm living my life. Like, at this later stage, like, she and... so he's Nigerian, right?
Okay.
So there's the whole cultural, like, difference.
Yeah.
And she fully embraced. I mean, my mom's, like, traveling to Nigeria for, like, 3 months out the year now.
Yes.
She's not even, like, a partier, but, like, they party. Nigerian, y'all party hard, Nigerians, all right? So she's at, like, I'm calling her, she's like 2 a.m. She's like, oh, you're just leaving the party? Who are you? I don't know.
Brenda, you better live your best life.
She's living her life now.
I love that for her.
And I love that for her.
Yeah.
And it just makes me, I don't know, it makes me so excited, again, about just, like, growing older and just, like, also how she raised me is to, like, always be open to new things.
Yeah.
Like, don't be rigid.
Yeah.
Like, be in flow. You never know where life's going to lead you.
Yeah.
We're here.
Listen, okay? So if it weren't for Brenda and Donna, we would not be sitting on this couch having this conversation. We
have to do a photo, like a meetup for
them.
We
will. We're making them link up, but also all of us together, we're going to have a moment.
When moms link up.
Yep. I love that so much. Honestly, Alicia, I'm so excited about being here in this space with you, being able to align on so many different things. We've talked a little bit about what's coming up and what we're going to share on this show and some of the ideas that we've had together in collaboration. And I think it's so beautiful that there's such a broad range of things that we want to touch on.
Yes.
And that excites me. Yes, the duality, right?
Yes.
Right? Digging into that, I think, when I think of duality, when I think of coexistence, I think of a whole human, right? Mm-hmm. We just picked that card of wholeness.
You are whole.
I am whole. You are whole. You are whole. If you are watching at home, you are whole. Know that. Own that. I think about the fact that when we don't embrace it, we don't allow ourselves that sense of wholeness.
Yeah.
And it's important that as human beings, we really allow ourselves to really feel it all.
Yeah.
It's interesting because one of the things that we aligned on and that we talked about was what I was going through in the moment and what you had already experienced and navigated. And I want to talk a little bit about that. But what I found that when I started to share and be more vulnerable with my community, with my audience, and tell them how I was feeling, I found more people relating to that emotion that I would normally hide than what I've been sharing on a regular basis.
Yeah.
In fact, engagement skyrocketed. And
Mhm.
not that that should be, you know, the measure of
Yeah.
anything, but I realized there was a deeper sense of connection with my community
Yeah.
when I started to show that whole human
Mhm.
and not just portray this image of joy 100% of the time, because
Mhm.
that's not realistic and it's not true.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so as we dive into that conversation of, you know, what we discussed that we could
Yeah.
relate on, I would love for you to open up and share a little bit of your experience
Yeah.
and like how you were also able to support me through my experience
Yeah.
in, you know, a little bit of division, right?
Yeah.
And it's ugly, it's
Mhm.
messy, it's not fun.
Messy.
But I want you to take the floor and
Yeah.
you share and you
Yeah.
talk about it.
I love when you said the like, just like the wholeness about us being human, and what came up for me is that even when we feel broken, like we're still whole.
Mm.
And so
Yeah.
it's like in this space that I'm at now, it's like there's a lot of like fragmented pieces that I'm still putting together and
Yeah.
like sorting through. But there's still wholeness that
Yeah.
doesn't like take away from the wholeness that like lives. And so like in some of the brokenness, when you were sharing, right, and we first got on the phone, and you're like, hey, like I had this podcast, and I was like, I know, girl.
I was listening.
Yeah, I was like, you know, and I'm excited. I'm like, okay, you know, like, what's going on? And then just like talking about how there's like a separation that's happening and like what restarting looks like. The first thing that came to me was like, I am going through the exact same thing. And it's one of those things when you went back to like the shame around like how you feel, like you're like, oh, I don't want to like share this with everybody. And also because for me, I'll speak for me, but it's a personal experience when you have a business partnership that like I'm not married, so it's like it's a marriage.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah,
it feels like.
yeah.
And like,
Oh, yeah.
And in certain ways, you might even have more paperwork than like a marriage could actually have.
Yeah.
Because of how like intimately like intertwined you are. And so outside of that, they're like family. And so my partner was like family to me. Like you're in like, you know, you're like a sister.
Yeah.
And she still is. And like in all the group chats and things
Yeah,
like that.
yeah,
And so when you were sharing, it was just kind of like, wow. Like I didn't share this with everyone because it's like, ooh, well, what part? I don't want to share someone else's story. Like I only want to speak for myself.
Yeah.
But I don't like, you know, how things are going to be perceived.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we get so caught up that we feel even more isolated.
Mm-hmm.
And we isolate ourselves from like being in this community and
Yeah.
being able to support each other.
Yeah.
And so for me, like with my partner, like we were together for 4 years and we built something beautiful and amazing and just like impactful for like Black people, but specifically like Black women, and just so many like things that we got to like tear down and barriers that we like push through, and just even from the standpoint of like being scrappy as like Black entrepreneurs, and we don't get the funding that we like so rightly deserve.
Yeah.
And we just had to like navigate and figure out. And so there's this intimacy that like grows. There's this like I lean on you, you lean on me. Like we're in this, we're doing this. The vision is clear. And then the vision started to get cloudy.
Yeah.
And we're both like powerful individuals. And so it's okay that like her vision changed and maybe my vision changed and they didn't align anymore. But it's painful.
Yeah. Yeah. I can relate to so much of that, especially the sisterhood piece.
Yeah.
Right? Because you were like, she was like my sister. And she still is.
Yeah.
Like, she still is,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like, let's be real about
Yeah.
that. When we dig into the depths of what sisterhood is,
Yeah.
on the outside, people bond us together in a way that looks like this is perfection, right?
Yeah.
But truthfully, and I say this in a lot of my classes, we're always aiming for progression, right?
Yes.
In our human evolution, it's all about progression as we grow physically, mentally, spiritually. And that happens in a sisterhood.
Yes.
We just don't always acknowledge it.
Yes.
So just as if my blood sisters, sometimes we don't see eye to eye.
Mm-hmm.
We be disagreeing left and right. Like, I'm like, girl, you wrong. And she's like, girl, you wrong. And then 10 seconds later, we're laughing, right? And I think that, you know, going back to that idea of rigidity that you talked about, like oftentimes we'll look at something and we're like, okay, this is the way it's supposed to go.
Yeah.
And we put it in a box, right? And then we label it and we put all of these descriptive words on it that make it so palatable and presentable to the public, right?
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, the duality of it all is that it's not always pretty and it's
Mm-mm.
not always perfect. And sisterhood can be messy sometimes.
Yeah.
And that's okay. You know, I think
Yeah.
when you find those true sister connections
Mm-hmm.
in that chosen family that you have, you recognize that.
Yeah.
And so I thought it was so beautiful that even though you all might be in a space that might be fragile, like I said in my episode with Joelle, like love is fragile.
Yeah.
And we have to allow it to be that. Love is complex. And we have to allow it to be that. And it can be complicated. And we have to allow the space for it to be that.
Yeah. And like even in that, right? Because love is it's so powerful, right? That like in love, it's like there can be anger.
Yeah.
There's passion, there's frustration, like there's grief. And like love still encompasses like all of that, right? It doesn't always have to be that like, oh my gosh, there's googly eyes, or like I'm pouring out like all these like lovely like affirmational words over you. It's like, no, like that it's a visceral like feeling. And it can like trigger different things within you. And so it doesn't mean like love is lost, right? It's just it shows up in different ways. And so I've been like working with that, where just sitting with like, if I'm being very real, like there was frustration, because it's like, what is happening? I love you, we love each other, like what are we doing right now? And then you go through the phase of grief, where it's like, okay, this is what's happening now. I get to like sit with that, I get to be with that, and then at the same time you still get to like move forward. And so it's like in the midst of like amazing things happening and like communities growing and like you're still making impact, you're also like, as a healer, oh my God, I can almost cry.
Let it go. Let it flow.
But like you're a healer and you're working to like build community and like be that for other people. But then you're also going through it. And so it's like still sitting with the duality of that too. And it's like, it's okay. You don't have to have it all together. You don't have to have it like figured out. And knowing that, even sharing that is like giving other people permission. We keep like having that conversation, but like not hiding it. And letting people know like, yo, I hurt. Like it hurts.
Yes.
You know?
I think that was also, and I love you so much, by the way. I'm here with you.
Thank you.
Like, before we move on, I just want you to know that. Like, and we can sit in these moments together and feel what we feel and give each other the permission to feel and support each other in that and hold each other through that, you know? I think that's the beauty of community. And as we dive deeper into that, as we reach into our bag and we pull out all of these incredible brothers and sisters that we're about to sit here and talk to, I think about that. And that to me like shapes the fullness of love. That's so much of what you were talking about. That's really what came to mind as soon as you started like really diving into all those different aspects of love, and how truly when we love someone so deeply, we do also give them the ability or the power or the keys to be able to make us feel. And that's hard too. You know? Like giving them that access. Because in being so vulnerable in love and in letting your heart open up, you have to. You don't have to give them complete access, right?
There's discernment.
You know? There's discernment, there's boundaries.
Yes,
we talked about
boundaries.
those.
Yes, Kate.
But yes, Kate, thank you for the boundary circles. But, you know, this is another thing that I talked about with Kate, and again, coming back to that idea of completion and a circle. We were talking about like the key ring, right? And how, you know, you think about like old school, like when you had like, you know, a bunch of different keys on your key ring, right? Now I think it's gotten a little bit different. Like sometimes, like, you know, people have these like fobs and things like that for their doors because like we've gotten very technologically advanced, but you know, I'm still a millennial. You are too.
I have multiple keys.
Okay, so do I. So do I.
Yeah.
I can't.
As you said it, I was like, oh, we don't do that anymore.
No. We still do that. But I'm talking to our Gen Zers out there.
Yes.
We want them to feel included. But, you know, you have this key ring, right? And it has the key to your mailbox and the key to your car and the key to, you know, your P.O. box and maybe the key to your storage closet and all these different keys, right? And when we go into love, oftentimes blindly, with our whole hearts, we just hand over the whole set of keys. And we're just like, here, you have access, full access. And I'm learning now that it's okay to hold some of those keys for yourself and not give them every key to every single door. That's part of how I protect myself.
Yeah.
That's part of how I love myself and care for myself.
Mhm.
It's also part of how I create a healthy relationship with someone else, you know? It's
Yeah.
like, I'm going to be honest with you and say, hey, on the key ring that I'm giving you, on the spare keys that I'm giving
Yeah.
you, it's got the mailbox key, it's got the key to the front door. I'm holding on to my storage queen. I'm going to keep, you know,
Yeah.
the key to the mechanical closet.
Yeah.
And it
And that's
actually,
honest.
it is, right?
Like, yes.
And like, I think we need more of that.
Yeah.
More of that honesty.
Yeah.
More of allowing ourselves the permission to say, hey, I'm going to be upfront from the start
Mhm.
because I want to create a loving, healthy relationship with this person.
Yeah.
And I want them to know that, like, I have boundaries because I respect myself and I want
Yeah.
you to respect me too.
Yeah.
And I think we talked about this several times, and I know it's going to be a constant thread through our conversations, but we are teaching people how to love us by how we love us.
Yep.
And one of the most beautiful things I think about our initial conversation is like, we were just so transparent.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, this is what's going down.
Yeah.
This is what
Yeah.
I need.
Yeah.
Help. Like,
Yup.
you know?
Yeah.
And you
Ugh.
responded with how you felt about it,
Yeah.
what you thought about
Yeah.
it, how you wanted to contribute and
Yeah.
collaborate. And I
Yeah.
was like, all right, great.
Yeah.
So like, let's tackle
Yeah.
this batch of conversations,
We
episodes,
won't see.
and we're going to see,
Yeah.
right?
Even in our communication, I love that it was like one of the things I'm like, okay, like I'm very direct, and sometimes people could take that different ways.
Yeah.
And it's like, just, I'm going to be direct
Yeah.
like, with how I feel. And if there's anything that ever feels like offensive, I was like, just let me know, like off top, because it's never my intention.
Yeah.
But if it does, like, let's talk about that.
Yeah,
as opposed to
yeah,
sitting
yeah.
And you're like, oh, thank you. Like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, now that I have this information, it makes it easier to approach those like conversations.
Yeah.
But like, one, it takes awareness on both people's sides, like of like where you're at, like what you need, what you want, like what
Yeah.
you desire.
Yeah.
And even like the areas where I'm like, I'm still working on this.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Like it could be a thing, but I'm gonna let you know. It's a work in progress.
Yeah,
over
yeah, yeah,
here.
yeah.
To like to be able to share that, but I love that like it was when we talk about the duality, like in the coexistence, like all that was welcome in this pot
Mhm.
that we were like putting together.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't like let me like tiptoe.
Yeah,
on
yeah, no,
this.
no.
It was none of that. It was like this is what's happening.
And neither of us had time for that in that moment either, you know?
No.
I
Yeah.
was trying to pick up the pieces for this.
Yeah.
You were planning a whole entire wellness
Yeah,
festival.
yeah.
Like, there was no time.
Yeah, yeah. But I think that almost made it even more beautiful because it was like when we talk about this podcast about having deep conversations, we like cut straight to it.
Yep.
Like it was just like, okay, the fluff that could be associated with things, like no, like where's our heart posture with this?
Yeah,
And like
yeah.
what's the vision? What do we want to create?
Yeah.
Like what's the impact?
Yes.
We're both aligned? Okay,
Yep.
boom, like let's do this then.
Yeah.
And then as we go, what I love too is like we have check-ins. And so it's kind of like, how was that for you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is there any like feedback? What was good? What could we like work on?
Yeah.
So it feels like there's moments for us to meet where it doesn't have to like there's never a build up. Because sometimes that can happen in relationships.
Well, it's easy for that to happen because time is passing so fast.
Yes.
And we are in constant motion.
Yeah.
And so oftentimes, even when you think about moving through a whole day, right? There are so many details in the day that you just have to let roll off your shoulders.
Yes.
Because the day is constantly passing.
Yeah.
And there are moments where we will take time to pause
Mhm.
and we'll take time to reconnect with our breath, close our eyes and sit in the moment if we need it,
Mhm.
right? We know how to take those moments
Yeah.
for ourselves, and that comes with a level of emotional maturity. But then there are those times where things are just on the move.
Yeah.
And so we let some of those things roll off, and some of those things we actually do need to take the pause for. And that's how the buildup happens.
Yes.
You know? And I think that happens in relationships too.
Yeah.
And especially the relationships that you hold so close to your heart,
Mm-hmm.
that really have those true depths,
Mm-hmm.
and the ones that you are most intentional about, right?
Yes.
And so, yeah, as we talk about diving deep, going into the deep, by the way, I also know that we have Transformation Church in common. Do you remember that series that he did about like going into the deep?
Oh yeah. I think it was top of last year.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Pastor Michael Todd. Shout out to him.
to you. And
He-
Charles. We love
Yes,
the whole
yes.
team.
Yeah, the whole team
Ugh.
at Transformation Church in Tulsa. He had me at going into the deep. And the anchor,
And that was last year.
Yes. Oh my
That
goodness.
was the top of last year.
You're right.
Yeah, he preached that. He preached that at the top of 2022.
Yep.
And it just like set the tone. Even before things started to like transpire, it just set the tone. And I feel like God does that.
Yeah.
He's like, let me help you out. I'm gonna let you know what's about to come.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So you can like anchor down on something. So
Yeah.
you don't feel. But like being in the deep is like where I felt like I was at.
Yeah, I was too.
And you're looking around. And I think one of the things we have in common, and this will come up in like other podcasts or other episodes, is that like identity piece of like whose we are, like what we believe in.
Yeah.
So like in the midst of the deep, but you could feel like you're drowning, right? Because it's you're like, it don't look nothing. The shore, which is comfort, looks so far away, right? And I'm around all these new things that are constantly changing. So, like, what do I anchor in?
Yeah.
Because everything's shifting.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, all right, God, if you brought me here, we're here for a reason.
Yeah, yeah.
And you also didn't bring me here to leave me.
Yeah.
I, like, have to, like reiterate to myself.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
over and over again.
He's always got us.
Always.
As you say that, I have one more question for you. What do you feel like your anchor is?
So, definitely God, like,
Yeah.
is my main one. Like literally on my Instagram, and I was so intentional. It's like God's child. Like it's ALICIA, and it's like God's child.
Yeah.
Because there's so many things you could identify yourself by, but for me, like that is always going to be the constant.
Yeah.
And again, this is a conversation we had about like labels change and hats change, and even like who I am in God might shift, right? Because how purpose isn't like the craft that I'm doing at the time. Like purpose can look like many different things. And he uses so many different vehicles for it. So I think like just kind of checking in to be like, what are we doing? Y'all, it's gotten to the point where I'm like, it's day by day now. It's just like, what are we doing today?
Today. In this moment. In this hour.
What is purpose for me today?
Yeah.
Like, and sometimes we think of purpose as this big, grandiose vision. And it is. But it's also those micro moments like that you build that gets you to the bigger thing. And so for me, when I'm like in a sea of like the deep and I'm in the deep, I'm like, I can't be so focused on like the greater, larger thing right now.
Yeah.
It's just like, what are we doing today?
Yeah.
Guide me today. Help me like anchor down in whatever it is I'm supposed to do today.
Yeah.
And I think that's really just been so helpful because it's not as overwhelming either.
Yeah, yeah.
Trying to look at the whole pie
of
my life. It's
I
like
love that.
I don't even know.
Yeah.
I was doing what 5 years ago? Now we're here. Like who knows? Who knows? But just like that daily, what am I doing today?
Yeah. Yeah. I love that you said that because again, it just solidifies the alignment for me. I thought for me, like, what is the answer? What is my answer to that question? Because whenever I ask somebody a question, I'm always like, well, what is my answer? And my answer is love. But God is love.
Yes.
We are love.
Yes.
Love is all around us.
Yeah.
And so as we come back to that anchor of God himself and all that he is in our lives, the bottom line, the anchor, the foundation of it all is love.
Yes.
And it's the reason why we're sitting here today with each other. And it's the reason why we're going to continue to sit in this space with so many others. I'm so excited about these conversations we're about to have.
I love that you just, because like love is like that universal over, like no matter what you believe, right? Like taking, like what we believe is what we believe. But like, this is everybody. You can all join in these conversations, right?
Absolutely.
So like having love is that foundation of just like where everything is like born from and like what's in your heart.
Yeah. Yeah. ALICIA, this has been amazing.
I could continue, man.
I could too. I really could. So though we know we could go on and on and on and on.
Yes.
For centuries. We're gonna close this one out and get ready for the next one. I'm gonna let you start with the closer. Just lead us out. Take us out, Sister ALICIA.
Everyone take a deep breath. Everyone take a deep breath here. Inhale. Exhale out the mouth. Let's try that one more time. Inhale. That felt good. That felt cleansing. Yeah. It's like we talked about a lot. Yeah. It was needed.
Yeah.
So, everybody, I'm ALICIA Ferguson.
I'm Deja Riley. And this has been
your weekly
dose
of duality.
Yes. Ow.
Until next time, much, much love. Peace.
If you enjoyed this episode of Dose of Duality, the podcast, be sure to subscribe, like, comment, and share with others. Yay!
Oh, we did it! It went so many ways. I love
know,
it, though.
but it was great.